My grandma left me her $1 million inheritance while my dad and brother got nothing. Now my dad is asking to hand it over to him or he will take me to court. When I was 19, I started visiting grandma every Sunday at Meadowbrook Nursing Home. My dad said he was too busy with work. My brother claimed the drive was too long. It was 20 minutes from both their houses. For 4 years straight, I showed up with her favorite butterscotch candies from Walgreens and played gin rummy until she got tired, usually around 3:30. She'd tell me the same stories about working night shifts at the textile mill in the 60s, how she met grandpa at a company picnic, how he proposed with a ring he saved 8 months for. I never minded hearing them again. Sometimes I'd bring my laptop and we'd watch old game shows. She loved Jeopardy, always got the history questions right. The nurses knew me by name. Last month, she passed away peacefully at 87. The nursing home called me first, since I was listed as her primary contact. 2 days after the funeral, I got a call from her lawyer asking me to come in alone. I thought maybe there was paperwork to sign or arrangements to finalize. When I walked into his office, he had this thick folder on his desk with grandma's name written on the tab. He explained that grandma had left me her house in Riverside, her savings account, and some stocks my grandpa had bought in the 70s. Total value just over $1 million. I sat there completely stunned, staring at the papers in front of me. I asked if my dad knew yet. The lawyer said grandma specifically instructed him to inform me first, alone, before anyone else. That night, dad texted asking what the lawyer wanted to talk about. I called him back and told him everything. The line went completely silent for maybe 15 seconds. Then he said there must be some kind of mistake, that grandma wouldn't do something like that. I told him the lawyer seemed pretty certain about the will. He said we'd talk tomorrow and hung up. 3 days later, dad showed up at my apartment with my brother. They didn't call first, just knocked hard at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I opened the door and dad pushed past me, my brother following close behind. They sat down at my kitchen table like this was some kind of intervention. Dad cleared his throat and started this whole prepared speech about how family takes care of family, how grandma wouldn't have wanted this inheritance to divide us. My brother jumped in saying I should at least split it 3 ways, that it was only fair since we're all family. Then dad's tone shifted completely. He said grandma wasn't in her right mind those last few years, that I'd clearly manipulated a vulnerable old woman, that dementia makes people do crazy things with their money. I asked him when he last visited her. He ignored the question entirely and said if I didn't voluntarily redistribute the inheritance, he'd have no choice but to challenge the will in court. He had already talked to a lawyer, he said. My brother nodded along, adding that any judge would see how wrong this situation was. I didn't say anything at first. I just walked to my bedroom and grabbed the envelope the lawyer had given me with specific instructions not to open until this exact moment happened. Grandma knew they'd come. She knew exactly what they'd say. I handed them the letter. It was dated 6 months before she died, written in her perfect cursive on her floral stationery. Dad unfolded it and started reading out loud. Then his voice trailed off and stopped completely. His face went pale. The letter documented everything in painful detail. How dad took $30,000 from her account in August 2019, telling her it was for a new roof she desperately needed. She never got a roof. She had the bank statements attached, showing the withdrawal. How my brother borrowed her 2015 Honda Civic in March 2020, promising to return it in a week for a job interview. He totaled it 3 days later and then didn't answer her calls for 8 months straight. The police report was attached. How neither of them visited even once during her final year at Meadowbrook, despite her asking the nurses to call them repeatedly. The call logs were attached, showing 14 missed attempts. She'd written, Charlie showed up every single Sunday for 4 years. He brought me butterscotch candies and listened to my stories even though I told the same ones over and over. He never asked me for money, never needed anything from me except my company. He earned every dollar by showing up when it mattered most. The last line read, if my son is reading this, it means he proved me right about everything. Dad's hands were shaking when he set the letter down on my table. My brother just stared at the floor, couldn't even look at me. Neither of them said a single word. They just stood up and walked to the door. Dad closed it so quietly, I barely heard it click shut. That was 3 weeks ago. Haven't heard from either of them since.